Hello. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm Aoife Tunney, the Acting Head of International Arts, and I'm joined today by Lucy Tevlin, who's the International Arts Officer. And today we're going to talk about the International Residency Initiative Scheme, otherwise known as IRIS, for our upcoming call, which is opening very soon. Just a little bit about the international kind of approach to this award and why it came about. You might be aware that the international team launched their policy document in 2022, looking at internationalization of practices and of dialogue with organizations and other stakeholders based abroad. So is really looking in terms of this scheme to promote that genuine kind of culture of exchange, collaboration and experience with our stakeholders and organizations abroad, for artists and for organizations. So IRIS was introduced in 2022, and we're delighted. I think it's a really useful and beneficial award. We're hoping that we get lots more applications this year. So we've had a number of rounds, obviously, and you can look up our successful applicants and projects on our Who's Funded page on the website. I won't go into reading them all for you today. So I'm going to just start off with our agenda and what we'll cover today. Thank you, Lucy. So we're going to cover the purpose and priorities of the award, the application process, what supporting materials are required, the budget allocation, and then the overall assessment process. We'll have questions for time at the end from attendees. If you have a question during our presentation, pop it in the Q&A or the chat. And we'll keep an eye on it, but we're going to keep going through the PowerPoint, get the presentation going, and we'll do the questions at the end, if that's okay. Just to say, we're obviously recording already. Could have said this at the beginning, but we are recording it today for the purpose of people who can't attend today, and they can look back online, but hope that's okay with everybody. So we're going to power on. So just to say, the deadline reminder for the award, as I said, it's opening shortly, which is on the 5th of March. So applications will be open online from then, and the deadline is the 4th of April 2024. Applications obviously go through the Arts Council online services, and through the application process, we'll be looking at that briefly later on. So just to look at the purpose and priorities of the award. So this scheme, as we said, is part of the overall international policy, and it's looking to support organizations with the delivery of residency initiatives, creating those opportunities for transnational exchange and cooperation across all art forms. So the scheme aims to facilitate diverse residency programs, and they will involve partnerships with organizations based abroad, creating a supportive framework for international mobility and development of the artists and arts practitioners. As we know, those kind of interactions or collaborations often and most times bring that expertise and that experience back to the sector here, which is also very beneficial, and that's why we really want to support that kind of activity. Overall, the international policy and this award aligns with the Arts Council's MAGAW, the 10-year strategy, leading the development of arts in Ireland. And we'll power on. So thanks. The priority will be given to applications that demonstrate. So looking at the clarity of your proposed programme in terms of artistic aims, feasibility and cooperation frameworks. So obviously it connects with your work, with your aims as an organisation and your partner's organisation aims as well. Artistically, the feasibility is very clear and secure in that resources are there, the investment is there, and the cooperation framework is a healthy one between the partners. So these all kind of add and are beneficial to your application if it's very clear in your proposed programme. High quality of supports and opportunities offered to artists and or other arts practitioners. So then again, the kind of supports that you will offer, or the framework of organizations in this partnership will offer artists and arts practitioners within the program itself. A high level of reciprocal engagement and a balanced level of investments between the partners. So again, those kind of balanced investments, but also balanced partnerships, so that across the partnership, everything is set kind of equally in as much as possible within the partners in the various countries. So giving that more kind of supportive framework, and that it's not kind of off kilter. So that will be beneficial to an application if it looks very secure. The coherence between the proposed artistic activities and the resources available. So really looking at your organizations, the capacity within the organizations and your stakeholders abroad. Are the resources available? Obviously, when we get to assessment point, it's assessment of the proposal, it can be clear enough that resources are kind of stretched. And so obviously that is not beneficial to the application. So really thinking about that, how is this going to be delivered within the capacity of the organizations involved and the partners involved? And the next slide, thanks. So additional information. The Residency program must have a minimum duration of 7 days. So starting from 7 days on, but individual residencies within the program may not last longer than a 6-month period. So that is a restriction within the program or the scheme. Remote residencies are eligible. So for whatever reason, these residencies can take place online, remotely, and do not have to take place within a physical presence in a location of whichever host organization. And this can involve artists establishing collaborative structures online as well. So they don't have to be in a physical presence. Residency programs may include both elements of inward and outward mobility. So again, those exchanges inward and outward from Ireland are key, not key, but they're beneficial, and they can be involved in that. And our next slide. So I'm going to hand over to Lucy, who's going to start with the application process.
Hello, everyone. Hi. So I'm going to start with who the applicant is. So the applicant is the Republic of Ireland-based organisation working in any art form that will receive any funding offered. So the applicant does have to be the organisation, and if you have an international, or you would have an international partner, they can't apply for you. The one based in Ireland would be the one that's applying. So the organisation must be able to demonstrate the active involvement of at least one other partner organisation based abroad. You can only submit one application as a lead applicant in each year, and an applicant may be directly involved in residency initiatives applied for by other Irish organisations working with partners abroad, but in these cases there must not be a duplication of purpose or activity across applications. If you're involved in something that you think might be a conflict, and you're unsure, do feel free to get in touch with us and we can advise you on that as well. So what can you apply for? So the type of activities that would fall under the scheme are enabling arts organisations to initiate or consolidate collaborative frameworks with partners based abroad. And while these frameworks must be exclusively focused on the delivery of residency initiatives that will benefit the artists and the public, the nature of each proposal can flexibly respond to the specific needs of each partnership, art form and artistic goals. The residency initiatives do not require the delivery of public-facing artistic activities. However, in line with the making great artwork priorities, that's our current strategic plan, which is available on the Arts Council website, if you want to have a look at that as well. But the inclusion of elements that engage the public will be an added benefit to the application within the competitive context of the scheme. So in terms of the kind of costs that are covered under this scheme, they would include, but aren't limited to, artist mobility within and between countries. So things like travel, accommodation, and expenses. Artist fees, related admin costs, branding and marketing of the funded initiatives, artistic research and development, critical research and exchange, publications and translations, professional training, and then also in good audience engagement, such as participatory events, talks, and classes. And then what you can not apply for are major capital purchases and ongoing core costs. So the costs do have to be related to the specific activities. So yeah, something you can't apply for is any activities or costs that don't fit the purpose of the scheme. And it also doesn't cover touring and dissemination of artworks abroad. And that kind of falls under the next point, which is activities that would be more appropriate for consideration by another funding body. For example, other state agencies such as Culture Ireland or third level institutions. So activities that have already taken place or that will have commenced before a decision is made about your application. So it's important to pay attention to the deadlines and take that into consideration when you're making your timeline. So activities undertaken for charity fundraising purposes, for participation in a competition, or for primarily profit-making purposes. Activities that have already been assessed by the Arts Council, unless you demonstrate that you have developed a proposal since previously applying, or if the Council has specifically advised you to redirect your application to this award. But do please bear in mind that that advice is not an indication of a successful outcome. And if you have any questions on that, do feel free to get in touch with us. So kind of going further into the application process, what supporting material is required. So there's two mandatory documents, a budget and a memorandum of understanding. So you'll need to submit a detailed budget setting out proposed income and expenditure for the proposed residency outcome. We do have a template for this. It's not essential that you submit the template, but you do have to submit a budget. And then you also need to submit a completed and signed memorandum of understanding between the applicant and the main partners. And for this, you must use the template that we provide, and that's available on the Arts Council website. So additional documents might be required under certain circumstances, such as access costs for artists or participants with disabilities, or if you're planning on working with children or vulnerable adults. And there's more detail on that in the application or in the guidelines. So just some further information about the budget. So in addition to the summary budget information provided in the application form, you must provide a detailed budget setting out proposed income and expenditure for the proposed residency programme. The detailed budget can be submitted either by using your own budget document or, if preferred, by using the IRIS budget template available to download from the Arts Council website. The maximum amount awarded to each successful application is €50,000. And do make sure that the totals are the same in all your budgets. So you'll be adding in at a few different stages, like within the application form, when you're requesting it online, and in the additional budget. So do make sure that your totals are all the same on those. And make sure that the amount requested equals total expenditure minus total income. So I'm going to hand back over to Aoife to talk through the assessment process and the criteria for the assessment of applications.
Sorry, muted there. Thanks a million, Lucy. So just looking at the assessment process, the quality and the suitability of the proposal. So first of all, looking at your track record of applicant organisations, and that's across all partners involved. So obviously, if it's an international partner, then they will have to provide enough documents or enough track record documents to kind of convince us that they have the experience and the track record to date. Quality of engagement with artists, arts practitioner and the public. Yeah, really just showing us how, and the panel obviously of assessors, how this residency really engages artists, whether that's within Ireland or within the activities that they will and the support that they will have in the residency hosts abroad. And the public. If there is some sort of engagement with the public, how is that going to be? How do we see that? And you can kind of prove with your outputs how that's going to take place or when it's going to take place, etc. Coherence of activities in relation to the overall artistic aims. Yeah, so the kind of outline of your proposal. What are the artistic aims overall? And then the activities, do they kind of match up? Do they make sense? Is it going to definitely benefit or be additional and feed into those artistic aims? So really kind of being able to lay that out very clearly for the assessors is key. The extent to which the proposal meets the purpose of the award. So again, level of reciprocal engagement and balance of investments between partners. So the engagement across the program, across the partners, everything kind of needs to be balanced. I mean, if it's off kilter, that can be very obvious, and that kind of an onus is on one or two partners more so than the other partners. So that activities are spread across the partnership and across the program, and equally the investments from partners are spread and kind of equally balanced between the partners. Obviously, it's more secure in general as a partnership and as a program. The quality of supports offered to artists and or practitioners, arts practitioners. Yeah, so what are those supports, kind of in detail? What's on offer? I mean, obviously, we don't want to see residencies where the artist is kind of plonked in a place in an organization, but there is no evidence of supports being there, of how they're going to be able to undertake activities, whether that's research, whether that's working with other practitioners, curators, producers, whatever the kind of activity it is, to really put that in the detail in the proposal. And the quality of that is how it's going to be assessed. The capacity to enable active engagement with new and diverse artists, communities and audiences. So this can be another element of a program, and if it is, then how is that going to happen? Is there the actual capacity for this? You know, if this is a core part of your proposal to enable active engagement with new and diverse artists or communities, then how is that going to happen? Do you have the capacity to undertake that across the partnership? Will you build on new opportunities? How will this be done? So kind of explaining how those new opportunities will come about, and the likely impact in the short term, medium term and long term. So the artistic aims across the programme, and then the kind of outcomes. How is that going to impact the artist or arts practitioner? Or if it is more kind of working towards impact on the sector, whether that's more public engagement, just how can you show that, the impact of that? The feasibility of the program or the proposal, as I was saying, the capacity to deliver on the proposal in terms of operational planning. So it would be key to be able to outline what is your plan, but also who is the resources, who is your team, and kind of showing track record of personnel and track record of delivery, so that you have that capacity to deliver on this proposal. So that the best, if you can, you know, really dig deep and put the best kind of evidence across on that, because even though some of you we will know, or the panel will know, that, you know, you're an organization, you're working in Ireland, you deliver on such a type of activity, we will know you, but we don't know your capacity in detail, and we don't know particularly in this program or in this proposal how you're going to deliver this capacity. So really pretend we don't know you at all. So that's how, you know, you're going to try and be convincing the panel on how you can deliver this program. The quality of reciprocal engagement between partners. So yeah, I mean, IRIS is about reciprocal exchange. It is, you know, otherwise, why would you have this partnership if it's not going to be of benefit to both? So it's the quality of that exchange. How is that going to happen, and what are the kind of inputs and outputs? So really being able to talk us through the engagement and the exchange between the partners. The level of available resources in relation to the program. Again, it's around capacity, but it's the actual resources, and that could be across the partnership, not just kind of explaining the Irish component, so the applicant, but looking at the other partners and the resources available to the whole program across the partnership. And the financial information provided. So really your budget, is it clearly provided? Is it clearly outlined, the payments across the program? Are artists being, you know, paid properly? And is there enough resourcing there to deliver these activities? Obviously including then how much you're requesting from the Arts Council. So really, is that clear, and does it make sense in a feasibility way? You know, does it look like this can be delivered without kind of leaving gaps? So they're really the main kind of criteria for assessment, and that'll be across the panel. As you know, there will be a panel of external experts, and they will assess they will assess the shortlisted applications. So it's really down to them, and really down to you being able to convince them of your great application across all of these areas or these criteria. And I think that might be our last slide, is it, Lucy? Okay, but we're here for questions. If anyone has anything related to Iris, obviously, but to anything in particular, raise your hand, or if you've put something in the chat. I don't think we have anything in the chat. And if you don't feel like asking a question right now, do get in touch, obviously. So yeah, we are free for any questions. And as Lucy said, all of those kind of particular details around, you know, your application, do get in touch with her or myself, whichever. We have our emails there, and we can get back to you. There's one there. Do you have any learnings from previous international residencies? Learnings. We haven't, I mean, we haven't actually, we've got report forms, which we can't share with you, but learnings as in things that needed to be changed, we haven't done that yet. I mean, it's a short enough, it's only really been 2022 and 2023 rounds. The learnings are, we'd love to have more money and be able to support more residencies, because it's so popular as an award, in fairness. Is it beneficial to have more than one international partner, or can you, sorry, I can't read the end of that actually. Can you see the end of that?
Yeah, is it beneficial to have more than one international partner, or can you start with one and do multiple residencies?
You have to have at least one partner to make it viable as an international program. But my suggestion would be to have more than one international partner, just because it is a very competitive award, and you are up against people or organizations who probably will have more. And if you can, I mean, it could be something that you have like it's it's balanced across the partnership, but one international partner might be the more kind of key partnership, but then there's another strand to it, if you know what I mean. It could be one part of it is online and one part of it is in person, if that's kind of almost easier to do. If you can prove that that's beneficial to the program itself. But that's all I can kind of say. It's just that without knowing what your proposal is, I would say that it is a very competitive award, and not to be throwing partners in there for the sake of it, but just that if you could expand it past one international partner, it would be beneficial. Can the partner organization's investment be support in kind, or does it have to be direct financial investment? You can have support in kind, of course, but if there was some sort of financial investment, it would be more beneficial in terms of assessment, because then you're not fully relying on the Arts Council for all of your investment. The Arts Council really, as it assesses applications, they really do like to see a kind of mixed model of investment. So if the partnership has in-kind costs to offer, then potentially small financial investment across the partnership would also help. Damien, hi. Okay, I think there's a question on the way. I can see it being typed. Talk amongst yourselves, I know. Okay, what is the size of the funding pot? So the size of the funding pot, you mean for the whole award? I'm presuming, and if not, you might correct me. So for the size of the full funding pot this year is €500,000 across the award, and obviously it's 50,000 maximum per award. So potentially looking in and around 10 awards if everybody goes for 50,000, if you know what I mean. So something around that. What is the time frame both for completion of residency, notification of outcomes for a feasible date? Okay, so we were just talking about this because it's still early in this award. Realistically, you won't hear back until around May, and I can't give you exact date. But going backwards over the last previous years, sometime middle of May is kind of the area of time. So with that, then obviously you cannot start the residency until you have your outcome and you've got your you've been successful and you accept your funding agreement. So the time frame can start end of May. I would say June probably is a good starting point this year. And you can keep, what I've seen is that there's no very strict time frame. So it kind of depends on your program, but really by the end of 2025 is when you should be downloading or taking your last payment, requesting your last payment. So that's from the kind of time frame that we have had in the past few years. So I mean, I think that's realistic. As we all know, residencies, you can't be bunching them all together. You need a bit of time in between, and they probably will take that amount of time, including open calls and stuff like that, because we know that can be part of the process as well. Any recommendations on approach to access course if the artist is yet to be selected through open call? So you mean, okay, I'm trying to figure that one out. So you mean that in your program, Damien, that you will build in an open call, and you're looking to hopefully have you want it to be an inclusive open call, I presume. Okay, but access costs would have to be applied for but sorry, I'm trying to think this through. So if you're applying for access course in preparation of having artists with access needs, then maybe that needs to be a kind of percentage of how you're going to select them across your open call, so that that is a percentage you're putting in now that you want, 10% is artists with access needs or in and around. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of have to preempt it in your application, and access costs can be built in that way, but you'll have to have your kind of documentation for those access costs as separate. So read the guidelines, because there are really particular kind of application guidelines for access costs on top of that. If that makes sense. So you're building it into your open call already. Hoping that is that's the kind of how many people apply. You don't know, so it's kind of you're a little bit of a guessing game, but that's your hope. In terms of artists with access needs. When you say more than one international partner, do you mean different countries or different partners from the same country? It doesn't have to be a different country. You could have two partners from the one country. Yeah, that's possible. Just to say as well that I know it's an international residency, but you can also have partners, which we've seen with our successful applications, partners within Ireland as well. So you will have to have an international partner, one at least. But you can have a partner in Ireland that will be part of the delivery, which is interesting as well, because you're building in the sector here and other organizations here. So it's kind of like spreading the love, but also spreading the resources here for delivery. So I don't know if that answers your question. Does that mean we could do the entire project in 20, or does it need? No. So you need to accept if you're successful, you need to accept your offer within 60 days of of receiving it, and then we would look for you to be starting the program in 2024, because that's really jumping into the next year. And this 2024 it's called 2024 because it's coming from our 2024 budget. So really we'd be looking for the process to be starting. So the residencies don't have to start, immediately in 2024. It could be the process. So like that, an open call process, meetings between your partnerships to develop it a little bit more, that kind of thing, or not, post kind of application development, if you know what I mean. So more planning meetings. So it's the process would really need to start in 2024. So within your application, within your timeline, I would put that in. I would make that very obvious, that the whole residency process and program is starting in 2024. Your kind of dateline, your plans, and then with your residencies can start in 2025, those, the actual residencies, but the planning would be in 2024, if that makes sense. Anyone else? Nice activity of questions. So that's good. If there's anything else, I get, really do get in touch. We can answer your kind of technical questions, but when it comes to more assistance, we can't be directly involved with you once the application window is open. You probably know that from previous awards. Is it okay if the resident artists have already been identified, or do you have to have an open call? No, so you don't have to have an open call process at all. If you have identified artists, do put that in your application, and you can kind of have biogs for them and all that information. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. And you know, you can kind of tally why those artists have been already identified in the sense that what is their relationship with the program and the kind of artistic aims, you know, why did they get selected? But there's no problem. You don't have to have an open call process, no. I think that might be it. And when look, I'm gonna say, I'm trying to get back in here. Sorry, my thing is going weird. Anyway, I think that's it. I think if there's any other questions, obviously the guidelines are key at this stage to be prepping your application. And you know, the window opens next week, but you have another month then nearly to get the application in. But I would say start the process early. As you know, it ends up taking time to pull it all together. And obviously, if you're working with other partners in different countries, that's another kind of job to get all that detail together and to be on the same time frame in terms of that. But yeah, do kind of start the job, start the ball rolling. And any questions in the next few days or before the 4th, pop them into us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I think we're going to jump off, Lucy, and thanks a million, everyone, for coming today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, and good luck with all the prep. And last thing, clap for myself. Thank you, Jamie. Do look up the successful projects as well on our website, because there have been really, really great projects and they're worth kind of looking at and getting an idea of what's a successful project. What does it look like? Okay, thank you. Take care.